Cowgirl Bookworms podcast, a space for those of us who read books and wear boots. So what's new? What's happening at Books and Boots? What's happening this week? So y'all, I am so excited. I signed up this week for ButcherCon, which is the writers' conference for mystery writers. I registered for this conference a few years ago, and I had to cancel at the last minute because of COVID. They shut down the conference and moved it from in-person to virtual during the Delta variant. And I was so disappointed, just so heartbroken that I was unable to go. And I've been a little nervous about committing to go to other conferences for a while now, but I went to 2 in April, and so I'm trying to step out there, trying to be seen at more of these places. So this time for ButcherCon, the conference is being held in my home state, or almost hometown, of Nashville, Tennessee. Brandy is coming home, y'all. So Hubs worked in Nashville one summer when he was coming out of law school, and we loved it there so freaking much. We tried to get relocated there. We applied for jobs there, but fate led us to Atlanta instead. And I love Atlanta. Atlanta means so much to me. No regrets at all. But Nashville is awesome, and I can't wait to go, especially because we still have so many friends in the area. So hopefully be able to catch up with some old friends on this trip. So, also just a few things about me. I don't do great at conferences or crowds or any place where the point is to make yourself seen in that crowd. I am incredibly introverted, but I have the skills to turn it on whenever it's necessary. So I can talk to strangers. I can be in a crowded room without feeling anxious. Those aren't the things that get to me. But often what does get to me is any moment where I have to walk into a room and it seems like everyone already knows each other or everyone's already friends with each other, or anytime I'm at a catered event and I have my little plate of food and I can't find a place to sit because everybody is already all paired up and whatnot. It's very overwhelming for me, and it makes me feel very vulnerable. So I'm just not a huge fan of that. Also, being in crowds and being around people is incredibly draining for me because I am an introvert. I can become kind of overwhelmed when I've had to engage with a bunch of people over the course of a day. So we use this phrase in our house that our day's been a little, quote, too people-y, end quote. We use that phrase whenever we've had a long stretch of time where we've had to engage in high level activities with people. So anytime you have to be accommodating or be an educator or be a presenter or something along those lines, even playing games and doing fun stuff like going to the baseball game requires a reset for me afterwards. I don't do well on potlucks. It's the whole thing. So conferences are basically just rooms full of chatting and people that need to be accommodated. And there's just this entire spectrum of energy that people are radiating, both good and bad. And I feel like I have a tendency to pick up on that, and it's a little intense. And at the end of the day, I'm incredibly drained. Sometimes even within an hour, I can feel incredibly drained by it. So if I know this about myself, so why even go to conferences? What is the point? What is so different about ButcherCon? And I guess I get excited whenever I see any of the materials come into my inbox, the stuff that they're going to do, the guest list, the contributors, the sessions that they're hosting. Whenever I look over that list, I feel super energized about what they're offering. And I feel very much oh, I want to be a part of that. That sounds like so much fun. And I also kind of amp it up a little bit. I requested, and hopefully I'll see this come to fruition, but I have requested to have a space in the Discovery Zone. And the Discovery Zone is something they're doing this conference where indie and self-published authors will be featured, and they'll be able to promote and sell their work to the crowd as self-published authors. So I think it's going to be a discovery zone. Like, look at these indies and what they're doing. That way we don't get lost in the book fair crowd with all of the traditionally published authors. So fingers crossed that I'll be able to grab a space. I asked for it. I'm hopeful that it's going to work out for me, but I'm still waiting to hear back. So good vibes on all of that from all of you. I appreciate that. So what is the story? What is the story I'm passing along to you? So this week I am going to read a post that's titled Road Dogs. Last week, Hubs loaded me in the truck for a road trip south of Atlanta because he had promised the kids that we'd all go to this tiny local Lego collectible shop in Noonan. Oh, and on the way, we were going to stop at a Staples and apply for a TSA pre-check. Oh, and I could drive. Because according to Hubs, I'm so good at driving on long trips, and he wanted to read his phone on the way down. I didn't want to go anywhere. I was having one of those mornings where the sunlight was coming gently through the windows instead of its usual glare. The fan above was creating a cool breeze. The pillows were just right, and I had not gotten myself tangled up in my pajamas and blankets. The conditions were perfect for dozing. After Hubs reminded me that a promise is a promise, I roll over and text Sloan about how these boys are dragging me out in the country for rare Legos. She responded, "If you weren't such a good road dog, people would quit making you go places with them. Be less awesome, Brandy. Jeez." She likes to remind me that I was her road dog for a long time. She'd instruct me to get in the truck, tell me we were going shopping, to pick up something, to get an oil change, or to pick up a friend who was having car trouble. We'd grab a big drink from Sonic on the way, and I'd flip through a copy of In Style magazine while she drove. This was often my position, riding shotgun for my friends. We'd bounce down back roads with the windows down and the music cranked up. Rap, metal, country, Dolly, Reva, Cher, Tina, Celine, Nicki, or Beyonce. We're shopping. We're looking for boys. We're buying beer. We're meeting other friends. And now I'm road dogging for my own boys. I showed Hubs the text from Sloan, and he said, "Can confirm." Eventually, I asked him, "So what is it? I need some perspective. What makes me a good person to travel with?" And he said, "For one, you're willing to drive. That's key." I do like to drive. Surprisingly enough, it's not a control thing. I just enjoy driving. He continued, "You know when to not talk. When you talk, it's engaging, but you also know when to not talk." "Okay," I said. "What else?" "Just a general readiness," he said, "like you're up for it." And I laughed. Even when I'm not? I was thinking about our most recent trip to the Lego store in the country. Exactly. Hubs loves to travel. We were first dating, so young and so broke. He tells me that we're going to London. I thought he was crazy because I didn't understand how we could just go to London. Like, what for? Why would we do that? I didn't understand the concept of just going someplace for no purpose other than to see it. I was a flea market kid. If we were traveling, we were setting up to sell something. Also, I didn't go to many places that I could easily drive in less than 8 hours. I'd flown to Chicago, New York, and Kansas City for conventions, destinations with specific purposes. When he asked me to go to London, I shrugged and said, "I don't even have a passport." His response was that we just have to go get one. And then the deal that was going to make our trip so cheap fell through. He was seriously disappointed. But I wasn't, because I was still struggling with the concept of traveling for pleasure. I didn't grow up middle class. We didn't have things like vacation days. We hustled to make a buck, and only one time did that life take us to the beach. So when Hubs was like, "We have vacation days, let's use them," I was like, "What? Why?" To be clear, While Hubs travels for pleasure, he doesn't believe in leisurely travel. We go hard. We went to Disney World for our honeymoon. This was back when you could buy these meal plan packages where all the food was prepaid and cashed in with credits. Before we even hit the parks, we'd driven all night from Paducah to Tampa. Then we drove down further to Clearwater for a preseason baseball game. When we finally made it to Disney parks, he had a plan for us to visit all 3 parks, sometimes 2 parks a day. It was fun, but by the time we made it home, we were beyond exhausted. And that's how Hubs likes to do it. If we're going to see it all. I've warned him that he goes too hard on these trips, so we have to factor in rest times, easy days, and recovery days when we get back. Our life made it difficult to travel for pleasure for a long time. Once we had kids, Hubs made sure we were to Disney as much as we could afford while our boys could get in for free. But when law school and then grad school for me, multiple moves from the city to city or commute to commute, we couldn't travel as much as he wanted. And then COVID. When the travel bans had been lifted, he'd spent the quarantine spinning his wheels. He'd started building up credit card points. He joined travel Facebook groups. He started listening to Points podcast. He started coordinating the kids' school calendar and overlapping it with my school calendar and started booking flights, hotels, and reservations months, sometimes years in advance. I told him, find me something where I don't have to walk everywhere all day or drive hither and yon to see everything. No stomping all over New York City. No driving from beach to beach. No waiting around for cabs and lifts. I said I wanted a vacation that I didn't need a vacation from. So one day he tells me we're going to Cancun. He'd found an all-inclusive resort and cashed in his credit card points that he had spent a year building up. He made appointments for everyone to get passports. While we were at the resort, we were blissfully ensconced in the glorious ocean views and access to on-demand margaritas. Getting there, however, was another story. This is where being a road dog came into play. We missed our first flight because we got backed up at TSA, so we had to fly standby. When we made it to Houston for the connection to Cancun, they only had 3 seats available on standby. One of us had to hang back and fly solo. That was me. We had run all the combinations, and in the end, it had to be me. I was freaking out, but I couldn't show it, because if either Bear or W saw me upset, they were going to freak out. One at a time, I sat next to them and explained the situation. I told them it was not a big deal and that I would meet them in Cancun. I watched them board without me. I spoke with Southwest about what I could do. They said the next available flight would be hours later. But on the board, there was a Frontier flight leaving in 30 minutes. They still had several seats open for under $100. I wasn't looking for comfort. I wasn't looking for amenities. I just needed a ride. The couple sitting next to me were a little handsy. The college bros sitting next to me had pre-gamed pretty hard. The senior ladies traveling with what I can only assume was her granddaughter were decked out in muumuus, shield sunglasses, and clip-on hairpieces. A toddler sitting in front of me flung her sippy cup and coated one of the college bros in what looked like a smoothie. Everyone laughed. The bros played with the toddler. Everybody was abuzz with excitement. Before we landed, the flight attendants gave us a hard pitch for the Frontier credit card. However, in their zealousness to get us on a credit card, they forgot to hand out the customs forms. The return trip was less stressful. We were all able to fly together, but a holdup in customs resulted in us running through the Fort Lauderdale airport to get through TSA again, and then reaching our gate just in time to board for our flight to Atlanta. We have another vacation season upon us, and Hubs is planning out our tourism spots, our meal spots, our rental cars, and all the logistics. And I'm ready to ride. I pack light. I remind the kids to download movies for the flight, pack gum for the plane, and prepare themselves to share a bed. I have to tell Bear that one stuffed panda for his suitcase is enough because he'll buy another when we're there. And I'll tell Will to pack a jacket because even when it's hot outside, he needs something to cover his arms. And I'll admit, sometimes I'm the problem. There have been times when I've vetoed plans at the last minute. I've refused to go places because of the rain. I've been stuck with migraines and needed to stay in the hotel. In New Orleans, I had an angry stomp off because dinner plans fell through, and I said I was going to find a restaurant that would seat 4. Hub's dream is to take a European vacation like Rick Steves, where he hits the railways with a backpack and versatile outfit. I've already told him I'm not doing 15 countries in 15 days. But I'm also not going to turn down the chance to go. As much as he cites me for being a good travel companion, in the end, it's because I'm letting him do the hard work. When I'm with other moms, they like to ask me questions about booking our trips. Did we use Vrbo? How do we book our flights? Which meal plans are we using? And I honestly cannot answer any of those questions because I let Hubs be the one in charge. But I do have some tips on how I make sure that I am a good road dog. Tip number 1, pack snacks. One of the Progressive commercials shows a group of people turning into their parents at the airport, and one of the women has Ziploc bags of snacks. Pop culture has made packing your own snacks lame. Whatever. I get hangry. Kids get hangry. And I can't eat a bag of gummy worms from the airport shop and think, wow, I'm full. A pack of peanut butter and crackers used to be a surefire way to ward off my diabetic father-in-law from having to come apart on a hostess for daring to inform us that it was going to be a 15-minute wait before we could sit down. I'm telling you, a little snack goes a long way. Tip number 2, bring your own entertainment. When I rode with Sloan, I'd bring a magazine because I'd show her pictures of pretty things when I found them. I have magazine subscriptions on my tablet, but it's not the same as holding a magazine in your hand. When I fly, I like to keep a book in my bag or I watch a show on my tablet. Tip number 3, bring a deck of cards. Sometimes being a road dog isn't about going. It's about waiting. Waiting for someone to be ready. Waiting for a slow wait staff in a restaurant. Waiting for a layover. A person can wait around playing Candy Crush or scrolling through socials. But if you can engage someone with a game, then it's a group activity and more people are content. The kids and I play crazy eights whenever we have to wait, and one time lured the wait staff at Mark's Feed store in Louisville to play with us. Tip number 4, comfortable shoes. There may have been a time when I could walk the Disney parks in a pair of Old Navy flip-flops. No more. A good pair of shoes, art support, quality flats, soles that can take a licking can make the difference between a joyful trip and a painful, resentful, irritable trip. I started a trip to New York City one summer in boots and ended it in Birkenstocks after a slog through the Met. Shoes make all the difference. And those are my tips. I'm trying a few new things this year. I have been encouraged to wear sneakers with insoles for high arches. So I got fitted for a new pair of Brooks Glycerin in white with these hot pink accents. They are so cute. And I also purchased some packing cubes. So hopefully I'll be able to keep my items organized in my suitcase better, because I love fitting as much stuff as I can in carry-on. So any tools that will assist me are welcome. Also, I posted a list of things that I do that make packing easier to minimize the packing experience. So if you were someone who loves to pack, loves to have that organized suitcase, or if you're just looking for some ideas, definitely check out the brandybradley.com/blog for my packing tips. All right, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, remember there is new content on brandybradley.com/blog each week. And don't forget, each month I deliver new exclusive content on the Books and Boots newsletter, available at brandybradley.com/newsletter. Read books, wear boots. XOXO, B.